I'm here in One Holland Village with Dean, who is the head of SP Mobility, and today we'll be visiting 3 SP charging locations. First here in One Holland Village for commercial, then we'll go nearby to 90 Holland Road to visit a residential location, and finally in the third one, we'll go to the industrial area in Alexandra. And along the way, as we tour these 3 charging sites, we'll learn a little bit more about the charging journey and how SP Group began building EV chargers, a director's commentary from Dean on the challenges they face behind the scenes, and what they're excited about to bring for us, EV owners, in the future in this country. Click subscribe to stay updated to more videos on EVs. Dean, welcome to the channel.
Thank you, and good morning, Daren. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you tell us a bit more about how SP Group's journey to become a charge point operator began?
Sure, Daren. And good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. As Daren mentioned, this is like a 3-course set lunch. So we'll go to 3 locations, starting in One Holland Village today. But before we talk about that, to answer your question, Daren, so at SP Group, we began our charging journey in 2018. We were one of the pioneers in the field. So we were led to do this because we believe in building a low-carbon smart energy nation. So as a grid operator as well, it was important for us to support this national agenda. And the business is actually adjacent to our grid business, where we run a world-class operation there. So we believe that we can transpose whatever we do as best practices into the EV industry as well. So that began in 2018. It's been close to 7 years already. We started with only a few charging points, but here we are today. In November 2024, we have over 1,800 points at close to 500 locations. And that network continues to grow as we believe in building more and more charging points to enable Singaporeans to have more options for charging and to give users the confidence to electrify, to switch to EVs.
And that is so important, Dean, because even though we hear headlines like almost 1/3 of new cars sold are EVs, the reality is the actual installed base of total cars on the road, 2.7% of them are EVs. Majority are still ICE cars.
Correct.
And so it means helping people transition, making it simple for them matters. One unique part about SP Group is that in your SP app that all of us use for our utilities, that's where we find the EV charging. And behind us, maybe Dean can walk us through how someone who is new to EV charging and EVs can start charging with your team.
Yes, thanks for that, Daren. And indeed, one of the things that we see also is actually transition anxiety, because people have been driving ICE cars all this time. So when you switch over to an EV, actually what do you have to look out for? What do you do? So on this board here at One Holland Village, you can see the 4-step process that we have. So the first point is really you have to plug in your car, plug in the charging head to your car, and then you have to scan on the QR code, and that is done by the SP app, as you mentioned. So SP app contains our utilities module, but also the EV charging as well, where using the app, you can actually find out the different locations and also access rewards. And we'll talk about that in a few moments later. And then once you're done, you can actually, after you scan the QR code, you can actually start charge by swiping right to begin charging. And once you're done, the system will tell you, that charging is done, or you can stop charging, and then you can come back, unplug unplug the charging head from your car, put back the charging head, and you're done. Unplug, pay, and be on your way. So it's as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's really easy, and for many of us, we do have the SP app already. If not, it's a QR code where you can scan. Just scan this video and you'll see the QR code. Now let's explore a little bit more about this charging location. You can see over here on our left, we've got the DC 100 fast chargers. We have the AC chargers where my Model 3 is being charged. And you can see even more on the right side as well, a BMW iX3 charging. And you can see all the bays properly marked for EV charging only. Dean, can you share with us a director's commentary on how do we commission a new charging site from beginning to the end?
Sure, Daren. So at One Holland Village is one of our largest single point location charging network. In that we have 10 charging points here, a mixture of DC and AC, as you can see. So whenever we come to a site to deploy, the first thing that we will do is actually do a site survey. So the site survey is done in conjunction with the building owner. So what happens then is we talk to the building owners, we assess the available power that they have. So that entails going to the consumer switch room to find out what available power there is. And once that's done, we will then access the nearest charging points that can be deployed or the most convenient ones that the landlord wants. So if you can see above us, you see cable trays, And
That's
so
right.
that's actually all part of the infrastructure that's done. So from the consumer switch room, we will actually pull power to this DB that you see here. This is the EV distribution board. So at the EVDB, that distributes power to all the chargers that you see around here. So you can see it's actually quite a bit of engineering and construction work around. So for us at SP, because we started early, we actually built a team with deep expertise in the area. Many of our engineers are actually on the TR25 committee, or they've been there, or they continue to be there. So we're very attuned to what's the requirements that are out there in the market that's necessary. So with that in mind, after the site survey is done, after approvals from the landlord, we then deploy in a reliable, safe way. And it's also in a compliant way to make sure that all our charging stations comply with the regulations. So after that is done, we do this thing called testing and commissioning, so T's and C's. That's once it's successful, we then commission the sites. It goes live on the app, as we talked about. And then when users come, it is the easy as 1, 2, 3 process that we talked about earlier. And that's it. You know, as a consumer, you're good to go.
That sounds like a lot of effort behind the scenes. Another question that a lot of owners, not just EV owners, but ICE car owners ask is, all these lots here, in many locations like malls, offices, they're often very closest to the entrance, premium parking lot locations. Can you walk us through how do we decide on the specific parking lots to deploy EV chargers in?
So for parking lot selection, that's actually a discourse that takes place between us and the landlords. So there's a balance of considerations. So on one side, you have distance. So the closer you are to the power source, actually the shorter cable distance that you have to lay. So then that brings down the cost. On the other hand as well, landlords may actually have certain ESG aspirations or requirements, and they want to support the national initiative to electrify vehicles. So they may then say, okay, I want to select some lots which, as you mentioned, are in choice locations. So at OHV now, as you can see, 10 lots here, very close to the lifts, very close to the escalators.
That's right.
So it is something that, you know, as a landlord, they want to be seen to support EVs. And one way you can do it is by, let's have choice parking lots that users can easily access.
I think that's really good. And so as an EV owner, one of the perks is just we get great parking lots. And even in some malls, like they say parking lot full, but you'll see 2 SP bays available. I'm there. Now,
Yes.
A lot of owners love, again, the convenience of charging. We talked about during breakfast that we are a small island nation. Point to point from east to west is just 45 kilometers, yeah? So an average EV, whether it's a Tesla or a BMW over there, we've got typically about 400 to 500 km of range. You can go across the island about 8 times. People are wondering, such a small place, what is the roadmap in the future where we can maybe use less apps and also maybe use the apps we have in Singapore in Malaysia as well. So in some places, like when Singaporean EV drivers goes to Malaysia, they use Jom Charge. It covers 70% of the publicly accessible chargers in Malaysia. Is there like a star alliance for EV chargers coming one day in Singapore? How do you view this?
So Daren, I think for that, the answer is probably, again, I think it's a balance. And I think in the future, we will likely see something that's close to that. So at SP, running our network, we recently ran a promotion with Jom Charge. So that was launched 28th of August, where we actually have a cross-border collaboration with them. So we do that because we think that will bring convenience, as you mentioned, to our users who use who drive to Malaysia, and also for Malaysians who use Jom Charge app who come down to Singapore as well. So I think this vision of this Star Alliance, I think it will be a reality probably in the future. But for now, I think it's still a case where operators are still looking at growing the network. So I think in Singapore, we are still at a stage where the market is still finding its way to maturity. As you mentioned, only 2.7% of the total vehicle population is electrified today. Yes, there are a lot more EVs that we see on the road. There are about 27,000 according to the latest LTA September statistics. But we're still actually some ways to it when you consider the overall vehicle population in Singapore, which is closer to about 1 million vehicles.
Thank you so much, Dean. Now, we love that most malls, offices now have public chargers. And for those of us who stay in residential property like condo, the reality is a bit more nuanced. So next, let's head to a nearby condo in 90 Holland Road and learn more about the realities of installing EV chargers and how it works over there. So head into the Tesla and we will see you at the next charging station. We're now back in the Tesla. You can see down here that we've just charged about 3.9 kilowatt hours and I paid $2.33. So roughly about 60 cents per kilowatt hour. The pricing will of course depend on the location that we're in. And next to us, Dean pointed out that we now see a taxi also charging its EV over there as well. Dean, before we proceed, what's one fun fact we should know about SP?
Yeah, so Daren, I've been doing this for I think close to 2 years. So I think one interesting fun fact that I've come across is, I think when we talk to consumers, a lot of them think that you know when they're at home they receive the SP services bill, they see that their electricity tariffs are 30 cents, and then they wonder, wait a minute, SP, the pricing, the charging network is actually significantly higher than that. So I think the fun fact to share is really, I mean, from our point of view, actually when we actually run the network in a location like OHP, we are just like a tenant. So actually we don't have access to like differentiated pricing. So even when we have the ability to open our own SP account, actually we also take our pricing at the SPA tariff. And then SP as a group, we actually run the grid. So in terms of the tariff prices that come in, actually a large proportion that actually goes to the producers. So we don't produce the energy that comes. So I think that's been one fun fact, because in a sense, a lot of people think, well, you're SP, therefore you must be getting electricity on the cheap, but actually that's not true. Actually, we operate like any other operator when it comes to installing our charging points and operating it.
I think that's a good insight to know because it's very easy for us to assume SP, their utility, they must have the best rate, right? So there's always a nuance behind the scenes, and I've learned something new today.
Yes, I also wish that were true if we had the best rate, but actually that's not the case.
Okay, so as we head off, again, the good thing about EVs is even though our car is idle, there's no engine, which means the aircon is on. So while it's warmer outside, in here we've got cool temperature of 20.5. And Dean, as we head nearby, how often are you in a Tesla? What's your experience at Tesla since we're here?
It's probably my third time in a Tesla. So I'll probably give you some comments once we get there. Depends on your driving skills, Daren.
So there we go.
Yeah,
Viewers, nearby.
No
pressure. 90 Holland Road. You can see it's just less than a kilometer away. Let's head there. Because I am driving, we will see you there. I'm here in the condo car park with Dean and now joined by Yvonne, who is the MCST chairperson for this condo. And we're going to learn more about getting the SP chargers installed, which you all can see down here. We've got two 7.4 AC chargers. And we actually saw quite a number of EVs along the way when we were driving in. Like we saw, I think, a lot of BYDs, Teslas. There was a Zeekr as well, which are only 50 on the road. And there's a Porsche Taycan as well in this place. So tell me a little bit more, Yvonne, if you could introduce yourself and how did the journey for installing these SP chargers happen?
Hi. Well, for us, it's a no-brainer because EV take-up is the direction that everybody knows, right, for the future of mobility in Singapore. So for this condo, because we know that for our residents, both the ones that rent and also the ones that have bought into this property, there's a lot of demand for EV to be looked after on premises. So we needed to look after our residents as soon as possible. I think more than a year ago, we started to audition, right, a lot of different EV charging service providers. So SP was the standout, most technical and most friendly because there is no marketing rah-rah. They didn't give us a lot of all the, oh, my app can do everything. They actually sent down engineers. So it was quite amazing when the engineers were very honest, very direct, told us a lot about the pros and cons, went to look at all the different sites because you can see in this car park, there are many places you can put the EV charger.
Correct.
But yeah, it was quite an amazing experience where we really figured out how do we make sure we accommodate the needs of our residents, not just now, but also in the future. We're also doing some retrofitting, but this is still, functioning well. So far, no complaints.
Thank you so much for sharing. And to be clear, like all these condo EV chargers, they are meant for condo residents only. So we can't just like I'm staying in Toa Payoh, drive here and charge my car. Dean, can you walk us through like how do EV chargers in condos work? Because I can't see this location in my SP app.
Yes, Daren. So as you mentioned, yes. So on the SP side, we've actually taken a deliberate view. So on our app today, you can see all our other locations all around the island, except for condo points. So condo points are actually only accessible by residents who charge in the condos. So the process is through a process of whitelisting. So the residents go to the managing agent, and managing agent writes to us. Then we whitelist the email address. Then after that happens, voila, the user can actually see the condo points on the app. So we do this for two reasons. I mean, one is we believe that in condos is private access only, and therefore only residents should see it. It's part of the benefits of staying in that condominium. The second thing is actually more practical. So assuming we were at One Holland Village earlier, and let's say you needed a charge, assuming all the charging points are full, and you look at the app, you see, 19 Holland Road, this is less than a kilometer down. Let's go down and charge. Then you drive your way down. So even if you say, like condos only, you may not really see that label, and you come here and you see like there's a barrier here, there's a security guard, and you can't come in to charge. So basically, when we do this, it's for these two reasons, and I think it's been effective so far in terms of meeting those two objectives.
Thank you so much, Dean. Back to you, Yvonne. When the condo team thinks about building an EV charger in a condo, what was the thought process of, say, let's start with 2 first, and then we expand later on? Because we see so many EVs even today in this condo already. I imagine the next 2 to 3 years, the number of EVs will continue growing quickly. What's the roadmap like?
Wow, this is where the engineer comes in, right? Because we have to think about the energy capacity of this condo, because this is not a commercial property, not like a shopping center industrial complex. The amount of electricity we can draw within this condo, right, for all of our public utilities and all that is still capped. So therefore, we cannot install like 6, fast charge, right? That will be not feasible. And also it would not be safe, right? Because we have to think about fire protection, which is why you see we have the fire extinguisher right there, right? We also need to make sure that it's close to places that are well ventilated, and then also fire engine access is clear. So there's a lot of consideration when condos as a private property need to actually think about how many EVs are going to be parked here overnight versus what is actual our safe level of accommodation of charging infrastructure. And also, to be honest, a lot of our residents, they have different options to charge, right? They can charge at their office, they can charge outside. Having the 2 chargers at home is just a comfort factor, knowing that when you get home, if you are running low, you can have this option anyway. But that's not going to be a dominant source of your EV charging service point, right? So I think it's okay for a lot of the condo management MCSTs to work with a little bit more technical know-how, so that when they decide where, what type of charging, and also what are the other services that usually get bundled with the charging, because there's a lot of security and also a lot of other features that can bundle into the charge app and other type of controls. It's a little bit more technical than what normal MCSTs will have to think about, but I think it's definitely worth it. And I think people so far have been giving us pretty good feedback. And we started with about 4 EVs a year ago. And now you see you have a pretty interesting portfolio of resident EVs in this condo as well.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. One last question for you is, what's one tip you have for other condo MCST teams on getting their first EV chargers installed?
I think it actually requires a lot of studying. The committee members actually have to do a little bit of studying, and don't be afraid of asking questions, because this is not an expertise of the normal layperson, right? To understand all about safety, energy, capacity, and also even a little bit of layout and planning. Talk to the service providers, make sure that they give you the technical advice, right? And also be a bit more realistic, because having many chargers versus having a few, there's pros and cons. And I think it is also a pretty good exercise when the committee members all start to brainstorm, right? Plan forward, because having EV chargers in a condo, does add value to the property, because of the fact that a lot of the rental, right, rental options for folks with EV, right, would actually open up new, better choices for the owners of property here. So there is definitely a lot of consideration for the committees to read upon, discuss, and also compare. So definitely it's quite an easy thing to get quotes and get advice. I think it's not a difficult thing at all, but it does require planning for a bit more time and quite a few deliberations within the committee.
That is so insightful. Thank you again, Yvonne, for your perspectives and sharing with us your journey installing EV chargers in your condo. Dean, if I could ask you one final question in this location. Now, you work with so many condos. How do the pricing models differ, if at all, when it comes to condos?
Yes, so for condos, actually, we have two models. Essentially, we have a pay-per-use model and also a subscription model. But predominantly, actually, we do a pay-per-use. So what that means is actually users don't have to sign up for a subscription plan. You know, they can just use the condo, the charges in the condo on the go. And also in terms of the pricing, that's something we work out with the MCST, who is usually very motivated to get the best deal for residents. So I think that's something that we do as a whole package. And one thing as well, which I think is useful, is really that we, as Yvonne mentioned, people charge in the workplace and they charge at home. But given the extent of our network, actually makes a lot of sense for condo users to actually use the SP network, because essentially when they charge at home using a SP condo point, and then when they go to One Holland Village, for example, they actually use the same app. So from that point of view, actually, it's quite convenient, quite seamless, and that's also the value add that we bring. There are also other value adds we will talk about later in this video, I'm sure. So that's just the immediate point answer to your question.
Well, there you go. There's different pricing models, subscription or pay-per-use. And with that, now that we've seen two locations, we're going to say farewell to Yvonne and head to our third and final location in our industrial area at Vantage Auto and Alexandra Road. So we're going back in the car and see you all soon. There was a good look on this condo EV charging. I didn't know so much went involved. There's so many agencies to work with as well. I'm very happy to hear that more and more condos are getting EV chargers in. I want to admit that it's still hard, there's still challenges, and it's getting better. Now, you mentioned that the SP charging network is not just in commercial, like we saw in One Holland Village, and also now in a lot more residential.
Yep.
One of the things you mentioned was at the launch of a new loyalty program. Tell us more about it, Dean.
Yeah, so we launched the loyalty program on the 22nd of October, so literally just a few weeks ago. So the loyalty program, at its basic, is actually quite simple. So essentially, the more you charge, actually the more points you get. So every dollar that you spend equates to a certain number of points, and today it's 5 points. So 100 points equates to essentially $1 off charging. So we'll have the redemption feature in a few weeks' time. Actually, next week, I think we will launch it already. So that actually enables our users to continue to have a more rewarding experience. So the loyalty points actually sits on top of our existing rewards program, which is the lease program as well. But for points, it's a lot more direct. You can, as a user, you can see it there. A short caveat is today, in terms of the launch, we have the initial group is public users who currently don't have access to a discount. So if you're on a discounted program already, you can't see points yet. So that's something that we will launch in the next phase of the rollout.
Thank you for sharing, Dean. And now to our final location, an industrial location. So we are going to Vantage Auto's office where there are SP chargers over there. And for those who follow the channel, I go there a lot because we have been reviewing many BYD and Denza vehicles. So we've got a 7-minute nearby drive. So strap in and we'll see you over there. We're here at our final stop at Vantage Auto, the BYD and Denza showroom. And here you can see a few of the DC50 chargers over here. And Dean, remember when SP Mobility first started, it was more of a B2B business. Now it's a huge B2C presence. Tell us a little bit more about locations like this and why they exist.
So yes, over at SP, our network today, we are really in a lot of different locations in Singapore. So we are at retail malls, residential buildings, both private and public. We're also at industrial commercial sites, petrol stations, recreational clubs, hospitals, tourist attractions, also across the whole gamut. So for us, we believe in electrifying all different sorts of properties. So this kind of industrial type of setting is also a place that we want to electrify. So Vantage is a bit unique in the sense it's a car showroom. So with the number of electric vehicles that they're selling, charging is quite an important amenity. But if we go to another type of industrial location, for example, Tech Place over at Ang Mo Kio, then it's also a different use case. So for that, it's a case where perhaps more fast chargers are needed. We've seen at One Holland Village, we have 6 AC chargers, 4 DC charging points. So AC chargers in a shopping mall may make more sense because users are there for a longer period of time. But in an industrial area where users could be using their cars for logistics purposes, time is money. So users want a fast charge because they don't have time to hang around, to visit a shopping center, do some shopping. But no, actually they want to be in and out fast. So for that, having a fast charging is actually quite important because it allows people to get the juice they need into their car quickly, and they can move on to other activities.
I think it's a great insight. So join me here as we charge at this DC50. I'll walk you through the steps. Dean will help hold the camera, and then we head inside the BYD showroom to wrap this video up. Okay, so you can see over here, these are the DC50 charging guns. So by releasing, I can then activate the charge port on my Tesla. So all you need to do is just plug in the charger and then use your phone to authenticate the charger and open the SP app. I hit back and click scan QR code, and I just scan the QR code in the car, and it tells me, okay, this is the charging rate, and I click start charging, and that's it. It says activating. It takes up to 30 seconds to charge. You can see behind us, we've got another GetGo car sharing car from Singapore EVs, also looking to charge. This is one of the original BYDs, the BYD E6 that first came to Singapore many years ago. And as it activates, the charge will start. And so it's really simple and seamless. Now let's take a walk inside to the BYD showroom, because BYD is now the #1 selling car brand in Singapore. Not just EVs, but all cars. You can see the BYD Atto 3. This is one of the top selling cars in the country. The price point of around 150K, 155K Sing dollars. You compare that to Toyota Prius, which is 205K. It is just a no-brainer to get this vehicle, which has more storage space than the comparable Toyota. Dean, how is SP thinking about partnering with EV manufacturers?
So we partner with EV manufacturers. We also partner with their authorized dealers in Singapore. So as part of the ecosystem, it's actually quite important to work together to partner. So BYD is a key partner of ours. We support them in their charging promotions. So you can buy a new BYD car now and you can get 20% off your charging for a year. So that's something that we do with them as a charging point operator. So as you mentioned, Daren, as we have more EVs in Singapore, it's actually quite important to actually have this continuous collaboration between the CPO operator who provides infrastructure and also for the OEMs and the ADs who bring the cars in. So we want to be there with the customers at the point of birth, if I may say. When the customers collect their cars, we want to be there to give them the confidence, to give them assurance that actually there is a charging point for them when they purchase their car.
BYD has done a great job helping the transition from ICE to EVs. And with new vehicles come new behaviors. And one of the behavior shift is learning about how to use chargers responsibly and not getting a sticker shock when there are idle fees. Can you walk us through, as one of the nation's largest public charging networks, how is our mindset shifting when it comes to idle fees?
Yes. So for idle fees, SP is one of the first CPOs to actually launch it, and we continue to do so. So we did this as a pilot in December last year, where we launched it in 8 sites, and then we progressively opened the pilot to more sites, starting with shopping malls that we did at the end of January, and then in July we extended to all HDB locations. So idle fees is something that we've done actually with a bit of fear and trembling, because when you actually do this, there's always this balance that we have to adjust. So on the one hand, no one likes to pay more. So on the one hand, with the balance with consumers who are are suddenly facing idle fees because they've overstayed in the lot. But on the other hand as well, we also have users who complain that they don't have a chance to charge because there's someone using the lot who has already finished charging. So it's always that balance for us. So I think what we've done is we've really taken a measured approach. We're still learning and we're still making adjustments. So one of the things that we adjusted in June before we launched at HDBs is actually we adjusted the blackout period. So I think for people who are wondering, oh, idle fees, you don't expect me to wake up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. to remove my car. So yes, we've considered that. So we have this thing called the blackout period. So in addition to having a grace period of 30 minutes after you completed charging, what we have also done is we have also had this blackout period, which now operates between the timing of 11 p.m. at night to 9 o'clock in the morning. So that means that if you incur idling during this period of time, as long as the vehicle is removed by 9 o'clock in the morning, actually there are no fees, there will be no fees that will be incurred. So this applies to all our locations, except for the petrol stations, which is 24 hours. And in condominiums, where it's implemented, it's actually dependent on the MCST, depending on the house rules that they want to set. So this is a constant discourse that we're having, and we believe in doing this because at this point, when vehicle numbers are increasing, but it's still relatively low, it's actually important to inculcate good driving behavior, good etiquette, because when even more vehicles come on the road, it's actually more important that everyone adopts the right behavior so that the infrastructure can actually be used and shared by all users.
That has been very insightful learning about our journey. One last question, what's one thing that we should look out for in the future with SP's charging network?
So at SP, we believe in trying to reward the consumer. So with the launch of the loyalty rewards points, we have now an avenue of where users can actually access to even greater rewards. And this is straight off, a discount off charging. So that's something that we will continue to look into to provide users with a more rewarding experience. And we want to look beyond just prices, right? We want to look at products, features, and also to address the pain point that all Singaporeans have, like when I drive to Malaysia, like what can I do? So all these things are in the pipeline, and for those who are in this space, whether you drive an EV or you work in an industry, you understand that it's really a very exciting space that we're in. There is no one day that is uniform like today. I spent the whole morning with Daren, on this very, very insightful and very enriching experience just talking about what we do. So hopefully you find this video useful as well. But on the other hand also, it's a case where it's also a constant dialogue that we have with the consumer, to inform the consumer of things that we do and to give them the assurance and the confidence that as a CPO, we're doing all that we can in order to support the user experience. So hopefully, if you're still watching this, thank you so much. You have journeyed with us through this. I've been very happy to be here. And I think I'm taking away Daren's wrap-up post, so I'll give it over to you first.
So there's so many EVs now, even like this new Denzel showroom with premium MPVs replacing ICE vehicles throughout all vehicle segments. Whether you think of sedans, SUVs, MPVs, sports cars, Singapore is transitioning to EVs, and we can do that with peace of mind because of charge point operators and partners like SP. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and hit subscribe to stay updated to more videos on EVs.